Deadlanders: Journey to Greyhollow is the second book in the Deadlanders series by Timothy Howard. It follows the adventures of 4 reanimated corpses as they hunt wicked necromancers. They live under constant scrutiny and rejection by the living, but when rumor tells them of a city of the dead where they can live undaunted, they put all their efforts into finding the safe haven at long last. Full disclosure, the author is a patron of the show and I have been paid as a beta reader for this particular book. However, Mr. Howard has not paid for this review in any way, and I do genuinely believe that this is a good book. So take that for what you think it's worth, but I'll do my best to eliminate bias during this review. Now that the legal junk is out of the way, how does the story hold up? The book takes place in the world of Orin, where rogue necromancers raise the dead to serve as mindless slaves. Some retain their consciousness, like our heroes, who then dedicate themselves to hunting down necromancers. In searching for one of these necromancers, named Edna Vane, our heroes learn about a secret city where the undead can live without fear of persecution called Greyhollow. They've been at the necromancy hunting business for a while and decide that this could be a place where they could really settle down. After so much time of their unlife spent constantly wandering and fighting, this mythical city could be exactly the rest they deserve. Even though this is a sequel, the story opens up easily. Reading the previous book would no doubt fill in some gaps, but it didn't provide information that was required to understand this book. The characters play off each other well, the world is basic and understandable, and there's enough action and dry wit to keep most audiences engaged. Howard's writing style comes off as easy-flowing, making you want to keep reading scene after scene as the heroes work their way through several attacks and threats on their unlives. The world of Orin is like a steampunk version of the early 20th century. Technology is on the rise and steam powers a lot of it. That or Natalie Tesla's power coils. Cars are common enough, as are blimps, but there's also magic. It's a little complicated because the most we see in this book is either alchemy or illusion magic. You won't see fireballs spewing forth over the streets or dragons summoned to do an evil overlord's bidding. This is a more casual form of magic, kind of like what you might read about in Tolkien. The world is also split into several continents, 4 resting on the ocean, and another 5 floating high in the sky. These continents are detailed in several maps at the beginning of the book, and you know I love me some maps in books. One of the more telling signs of effort was that each of the main characters is a different type of undead. They're not all the same shambling, horrific zombie model. The party starts with 4 members, with a 5th joining partway through the book. Burial, or the buried man, is a heartless corpse, walking around with good looks and a cavity where his heart's supposed to be. Scullion is a skeleton covered in black metal. He's the closest thing the group has to a leader. Merveia is a lich and serves as the group mage. She can cast magic, which is something of a rarity and helps disguise the group when they need to go out in public. Like Burial, Remni is also a heartless one, but she's so agile and moves so quickly that you'd sooner think she was a ninja or an Olympic athlete. Finally, there's Agony, and don't worry, he's not some emo kid working at Hot Topic. He's a ghast who was tortured to death and now suffers from PTSD as a dead guy. When the Deadlanders offered to bring him along with them, they gave him a much-needed ray of hope. I'd be hard-pressed to pick a favorite character out of the lot, between Agony's traumatic introduction, Burial's action scenes, in which he wields a giant hand cannon, or Scullion's dry wit. The characters all played off each other well, including a budding romance between Burial and Merveia. I'm not one for romantic subplots, but if you are, you might enjoy Burial's awkward attempts to sway Merveia's heart with his poetry. If nothing else, Scullion's cynical jabs will make fans of British humor laugh. One advantage that these protagonists have over most others was that they don't need to eat, sleep, and they don't feel physical pain. However, that doesn't mean that they're invulnerable. You can run a sword through them and they won't flinch, but if you cut off their heads, they will die. Again, you know what I mean. Through the story, Merveia overclocks her magic and risks dying again if it vanishes. If any of them get buried, they'd be stuck in place, possibly forever, assuming they weren't killed. And then, if a necromancer gets the upper hand on any one of them, that necromancer might be able to control them and use them against each other. There's an actual danger they face just going about their daily lives. And then there's what the angry mobs will do if any mortals discover a gang of undead warriors wandering down the street. As the heroes adventure along, they come across several unsavory characters. I don't want to give too much away, but there's much more to Edna Vane's plans than you'd first think. There's some shadowy plot that Vane is a part of, which isn't fully revealed in this book. But that just means we have more material for a sequel. It's a little odd seeing Vane as such a central focus for the first third of the book, only to get brushed aside once Greyhollow was mentioned. Then there's another villain who gets introduced later in the book who struck me as a little wedged in, but he isn't too bad. Frankly, those are my biggest criticisms about the book, so it's doing plenty right. Overall, Deadlanders' Journey to Greyhollow is a fun adventure with an unusual cast of heroes going on a trip to find a place where they belong. There's plenty of comedy, action, a little drama, all mixed in for an invigorating read. Hopefully Howard keeps writing, because I'd like to see what happens to these guys next. Maybe they open a detective agency. Maybe they get blasted into space and have to use their limited resources to survive. Maybe they all go to the beach and get arrested for a murder they didn't commit. Whatever they go through, I'm sure it'll be an entertaining read. And I didn't forget to rate the book. I know that Howard's listening to this review, so I'm delaying on purpose just to antagonize him. Because I'm a dick. It's a page-turner. If you want to give this book a shot, check the description for a link to the Amazon page. You get a really good price for how big the book is. Does this sound like something you'd want to read? Then comment below and let Howard know. And as always, stay tuned for more.